Halloween.
Forever.
Okie dokie, Steve. Hey, got one for you. Why haven't, well, listen, this may be a little bit of an outdated joke because we all know this is not to be true, but why haven't aliens visited our solar system?
I don't know, Brian. Why haven't aliens visited us in the solar system?
Steve, they looked at the reviews on Yelp. We only have 1 star. Welcome, boys and ghouls, to another motherfucking Minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Just short, concise, to the point. Alien related. Alien related. Although we all know in recent years, the guy from Blink-182 taught us that that the aliens are here and they have been here and the aliens are real.
Yes.
So a little bit outdated joke,
Yeah.
but I think it holds true to at least to the theme of the episode today, wherein we're going to talk about a big heavy hitter. We've been doing a lot of obscure movies, a lot of stupid movies, a lot of dog shit movies. Today, with the release of yet another film in the Aliens franchise, we are going to talk about, in my opinion, the best of the lot. I think in a lot of people's opinion, there might be some debate on that. The best of the franchise. We're going to talk about 1986's Aliens, plural, guys. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a little James Cameron, some fucking Sigourney Weaver, all that good stuff here today. I'm very excited. I've watched this movie for about the 700th time today. And man, always a absolute motherfucking banger. I just popped on the Tubi in the background, as I am wont to do. Put on a little Big Trouble in Little China in the background too. So I'm just sticking with the hits today, playing the hits all day long. It's like it's motherfucking Memorial Day weekend over here. We're playing the hits. But we got some shit that we got to do up at the top of the show. Steve, you got like some little drink you've been sipping on? Something you want to share with the boils and ghouls out there?
Yeah, I got a little drink. And my drink is just based on, like we're having a nice episode this time. We're just going to talk about a fun movie that everybody loves. And I thought, I'll just also have just a beer that I love as well that you'll hate. Because I don't care, but it's from...
I can see already. I can tell from the label I hate it.
Yeah, it's from Abjuration, and it's part of their Candied Sour series. And this one is based off that dang old Swedish fish. You just look at it.
Yeah.
That just looks like Kool-Aid in a glass. It's great.
It does like Kool-Aid with a little bit of a foam cap on that. And if you were to tell me, here's the thing. Well, let me ask you. Does it taste? And I'm a fan of a Swedish fish. I'm a fan of all the yummy little, jelly candies and things like that, gummy candies. Would you say it tastes like Swedish fish, distinctly Swedish fish, or just kind of like a sour, fruity, candy thing?
No, I think that, and this is why I like this one. It is distinctly Swedish fish. And like, I'm not the biggest gummy candy fan. Like, you'll never catch me with a fucking Haribo bear. I don't give a fuck.
See, I've never been a big fan of the bears. Nah. I'm more of I like a Swedish fish. I love like any kind of like yummy different sour gummies and things like that. Not necessarily a Haribo. They've got a plasticky consistency that I think is very specific to certain people's tastes.
Yeah. So you'll never catch me with a bear. Sometimes you can catch me with like a cola bottle. But like, back in the day when we had the fruit snacks that like came, like the shark snacks, remember those?
Oh, yeah.
And then there was the orange tiger shark that was like golden, or it was like orange and cream, and then like for some reason it wasn't even gummy.
Yeah, shark bites. Shark bites are legendary. Shark bites are some people talk about gushers. A lot of people have a lot of favorites like the Welch's ones and stuff. I would argue that shark bites are the definitive fruit snack, perhaps of all time.
Yeah. So like
we had to have a rule when my mom got those for us, which was on a very rare occasion. We had to, we begged for them in the grocery store. My mom would get us a box. Me and my brother had a strict 1 pack per day rule, or else we'd eat the whole box in a day immediately.
Yep. Yeah. It had to be that way. Can't have that many in a day because I'm the kind of guy who also likes to separate everything into the same color. So
okay.
you get like 2 or 3 packs, and then you separate
Sure.
all 3 into the same color. So you get big
Okay.
old handfuls of orange sharks. You get big old handfuls of hammerheads, even though I think those were the lemon ones. So you eat those first, get those out of the way. I don't love those as much, but
I love a lemon one.
Yeah, but I love the other ones. I do the same shit with fucking Skittles, and then I got a new one for a reference for 2024. There's Arizona tea fruit snacks out there.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they're not. I don't know. They don't remind me as much as like the Arizona tea products, but they're okay. I don't like them.
A tea flavored gummy sounds delightful to me.
Yeah, it's like they tried. They're not bad, they're not overly sweet, which is fine.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a new product. Try it.
Well, speaking of tea, that's what your boy's sipping on over here. You might have saw this and went, "Oh, that boy got one of them Oktoberfest beers." No, I'm just drinking a big old mug of Chinese black tea. Because after we get done with this, your boy's going to be staring at PowerPoint for probably a good 2 or 3 hours. I got a presentation I got to do in the morning, and I was traveling last week. I didn't get a chance to do it. And I've been fucking around all weekend procrastinating. So that's going to be my evening after this. So I'm like, I get a little caffeine in my system, but I do have one of these here on the backup as well. This is my new favorite, like soft drink, aside from a Squirt, obviously Squirt, now and forever, but I've been getting back into the Spindrifts, and they have a it's a pink lemonade situation, and I am a big fan of lemonade, all things lemon flavor, pink lemonade, you name, raspberry lemonade, any manner of lemonade I'm a big fan of. So I've been cranking on these son of a bitches here. So in preparation for trying to have a productive night here, I'm getting my caffeine. I'm keeping my uppers up and avoiding the downers for now. I did have a fantasy draft this afternoon, so I had a couple 2-3 beers over there, ate some pizza, junk food, that sort of stuff. And I'm like, all right, I got to get back. Got to get my levels back here because unfortunately I got to do some fucking work tonight. So
boo.
Boo is right. Boo is right. But not before we got a little bit of fun to be had here. We got to talk about some spooky ooky horror shit on the show. We're going to reveal what won our Showdown topic for the upcoming, believe it or not, month of September, guys. We are getting right into spooky season. We got a great topic for you. For those of you who are interested in suggesting topics for us, or for those of you who like to suggest Minisode topics like this one here, where we just talk about random movies or something that just came out or something like that. Or if you want to help us vote in the future, the next poll that comes out, which will be a big one for October. Actually, we usually don't do the spinning wheel in October because we do some sort of special Halloween thing. But in any case, if you want to help us in the future to help pick these Showdown topics, all you got to do is go over to social media at Halloween is Forever on Instagram, at Hal Forever on X. We're on Facebook. We're on all those types of stuff. You go on over there, search us, follow us, interact like regular human beings would, and see some spooky ooky shit on the internet. We also are going to have, we still have to release later this month our Patreon exclusive podcast episode for this month. Youth Group is Forever. So maybe we'll tease next week what we're going to be talking about for that son of a bitchin' movie. Why don't you tell the boys and ghouls about what they get if they go over on the patreon.com/Halloween is Forever and support your boys with the paper monies.
Yeah, you jump on patreon.com/Halloween is Forever, and then you get on that one big old tier called the Rascal tier that gives you everything. There's a preview tier. You can check things out early if you want.
Don't do it. It's a ripoff.
On the Rascal tier, you get reviews and recos. You get all kinds of fun stuff like extra votes. You get to get on the Discord, and you can be right here as the episode's happening live. You can be chatting with us in the Discord, and we'll interact with you, and we'll talk about other stuff. Ron and I were talking about pumpkin beers before the episode even started. And you get all that. And then you get also the monthly exclusive podcasts, and you can get the backlog. You can get all kinds of things happening for you. But you just jump on, give us those $5, and that all happens just for you.
It all happens like magic. Poof. all of a sudden you got things, you got stuff, you got all the major categories of both things and stuff covered for a scant $5 a month. You sign up for it. And yeah, it's just, you know, I mean, come on, it's like buying your boys a beer. And frankly, the more people who come and join us as we record here live in the Discord, the better, because it's always a lot of fun. Have our friends over here chatting us up, throwing barbs, rizzing us up while we're on here. I think that's what that means, right? Rizzing us up.
I don't.
Do they do that?
I
don't know what
guess
that means, guys. I don't know what that means. Anyway,
this is how fucking poisoned my brain is because of the internet. I was watching this movie, and there's I don't know which version of this film you watched, because there's like the kind of shorter 2-hour 10 theatrical cut, and then there's like a longer 2.5 hour like complete version of the film.
Yeah, the one I watched, I want to say, so I have it on VHS, which I have. Actually, I don't know which version it is on VHS, but I didn't pop it on VHS. I should have. I was too lazy to go upstairs. It was streaming on HBO Max, and I watched whatever the version was on HBO Max, which I want to say was like 2 hours and 18 minutes, which I don't know which that is because it's kind of right between what you were mentioning. That's probably the theatrical one.
Yeah, that's probably closer to the theatrical one. But I watched the 2 hour 30-minute version, the long complete version, and I'm watching it, and there's like a lot of extra scenes between Hicks and Ripley, and I'm watching it, and I'm just sitting here thinking about how Michael Biehn got to rizz up both Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton because of James Cameron, and then I was like, did you really just say that to yourself? Like, why is he rizzing up? Like, it's like, what the hell? How's your brain so poisoned? You're an old man now. Quit it.
The only reason I know what that word means is my kids started saying it, and they have phrase. Oh man, what did they even call? We were out to eat, and my nephew, who's 12, so he's getting to that age. You know, he's noticing the young ladies and stuff like that. We were out to he's very, first of all, he's very tall for his age, good looking kid, very tall. So you would see this kid and be like, oh, if you said he was 16, you would totally believe it. Right. But he's only 12. Sure. So these girls are kind of like looking and giggling at him and stuff. He's kind of like, you know, a little embarrassed, whatever. And they started calling him something that was a very funny name for like an 8 and 9 year old to call them. I think it was like Rizmaster 5000 or something like that. I was like, that's pretty fun. It's pretty funny. So that's the only reason I know what that is. Anyway, he did. In fact, I'm actually really eager to talk about this cast because everyone knows this is one of the greatest insane ensemble casts in genre film history. Just absolute fucking stacked cast. But anyway, we'll talk about that. So we got one more thing we got to do. What are we going to do on that? We got to talk about our Showdown episode for September. So we spun that old spinny wheel with about a bajillion new, and some returning topics on it, right? And here's what it spit out. That wheel spit out J-horror, aka Japanese horror, which I'll be honest with you, I was campaigning for a little bit, because if you've been listening, if you've been a faithful listener, if you haven't, once again, I'll ask you to fuck yourself. But you do have an opportunity to get back on track, right? It's never too late. But for those of you who are loyal listeners, you'll know that we've been talking about some kooky ass Japanese horror movies that we've been watching. I've been watching in particular, and we actually talked about one on the quote unquote punishment episode last time, the X-Day hair extensions. So I had a bunch of them in the old hopper, and I thought it was going to win J-horror, but spoiler alert, J-horror did not win. The second pick was Best of the Child's Play franchise, which, Steve, you and I have both gone on record as saying not our favorite franchise in horror. I don't hate it. Yeah. Meg was a big, Meg, our dearly departed third co-host, who, rest in peace, she loved, she's dead, guys. I do want to clarify that. She's dead. She's dead, been dead. No, she loves the Child's Play franchise. You and I, not huge fans. Fair to say?
No.
Yeah. So
I'm like, they're fine. I don't think it's that deep of a franchise.
Yeah.
And it's, like Brad Dourif is fine and all
He's
that,
great.
but I don't know, maybe I'm also wrong because I haven't watched all of the franchise. You know what I'm saying?
They're fun.
Maybe I'm missing.
They're fun. I probably should give them like I said, if we're going to go for like, it just feels so much like Leprechaun, and I like the Leprechaun movies better. I guess that's kind of what the way it unfolds in my brain. But no surprise, Child's Play, Best of Child's Play did not win. What did win is a very interesting topic that we're going to have to lay some ground rules out for. In September, we're going to be talking about occult horror. So not a cult, but occult. The word by which the word cult stems from, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it goes the other way around. But we do have to kind of define a cult because it's a fairly broad subgenre that does kind of include other subgenres like within it, perhaps. But so here's I was doing a little digging. It didn't really help me out a ton because first of all, I looked at the definition of a cult because I think broadly we all know what it means, but it's really translates kind of broadly to like a super. It's really could just mean supernatural in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It's more like mystical, dark, magical powers and phenomenon. But like the words supernatural and occult are almost synonyms from just a pure, Webster's dictionary type of definition thing. When I think about occult horror, I think about like, occult rituals, occult knowledge, actual like, occult organizations who typically have some sort of like ultimate plan or goal that they're trying to achieve. Right.
Yeah. I feel like that's the big defining factor for me in what we pick is like there almost has to be like some sort of organization working towards a goal, like whether it's pure Satanism or if it's more Lovecraftian.
Yeah, because cosmic horror, I would say probably all cosmic horror is occult horror, but not all occult horror is cosmic horror. I feel like cosmic horror is a sub level of occult horror.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if we're using the like broader definition, because then I was also thinking of like The Color from Outer Space, and that doesn't necessarily have an organization working in favor.
I don't know that it has to have an organization as much as like some sort of entity, because that the entity could be a cult on Earth, right? It could be some sort of organization or group, but I think it also could be like the kind of old god figureheads, you know what I mean? The frame, like the term that I landed on is I think the most important part of occult horror needs to be some degree of like forbidden knowledge. And I don't know that like it's like esoteric, oftentimes ancient, but not always ancient, belief system or something like that hides some degree of forbidden knowledge from broader society, right? And you just kind of pull back that thin layer of society, and you've got this like underlying, like almost oftentimes cosmic, but very much esoteric, set of beliefs and realities that like not everybody understands or respects, but it's there whether you like it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because I'm just feeling like I'm having the same flashbacks to when we were defining cosmic horror for that Showdown.
Yeah,
and if you're calling like cosmic horror a subsect of occult horror, which like I agree to. I'm just like why do we have the two different definitions?
I think they're very close to, and I also think weird fiction always gets like clumped into there as well. Like it might even be that like weird fiction might even be another like even broader subgenre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also we're talking about the literary sense versus like the film genre sense. I think of cosmic as being Like it has to have that like naturalistic element to it of the world beyond what we know it to be because we've only been here for 2 seconds.
Yeah. Cosmic absolutely has to sit outside of like everything we've pre-established as humans. And it's like, it's something that we have never imagined or have never created. Whereas like, I think occult horror can go either way. It can have cosmic elements, or it could be something like The Ninth Gate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is very much just all rooted in Judeo-Christian, mythos, but it's like about like these forbidden books.
Yeah.
But it's like creations that are all human with, secret undertones that are all human. And then it leads to, a Judeo-Christian ending.
Yeah.
So like, it's, yeah. I guess we're just opening up the door to Judeo-Christian occult, a Judeo-Christian horror possibilities first. Just like it's all going to be weird out of,
but
out of time
it
stuff.
Can't be just surface level religious horror, though. You know what I mean? I think it could be like anything as broad as, on the earth realm, if you will, as a kind of straightforward occult as like House of the Devil, right? Which is very much just like surface level occult. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it. Or it could be, crazy, old gods being summoned from the bottom of the ocean. It could be, or it could be Dagon, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Right.
Right. I think actually a really good film. Oh, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud.
Oh, you don't want to lead onto it?
No. Because I mean, but it's just such an obvious film when we're talking about this. The Void.
Oh yeah.
It's a fantastic version of this because it has all of those levels. It goes from the upper crust level of like, oh, there's a weird cult that has a ritual that it's doing, and then it descends all the way through like madness, and then into like weird dreams, and into a completely different dimension. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great example of a cult horror.
Yeah, it has that surface level like House of the Devil, but then it dips even further and goes all the way to the other end. Yeah, quite literally. Yeah, of a giant pyramid in the middle of fucking whatever dimension. Yeah. So let's give an example of something that's not a cult horror. Anaconda, not a cult horror. Not a cult horror. not a cult horror.
Gotcha. All right. Good. All right, so I think we got a pretty good idea here. I was going to originally
Deep Rising, maybe.
Well, I was actually going to say Santa's Sleigh, not a cult horror, but then I was like, might be a cult horror.
They send them back with a ritual and everything.
I know. That's as soon as I was popped up my head, I was like, oh, no, wait. That is, I think, definitely a cult horror. Anyway, Anaconda, definitively not a cult horror. All right. Anyway, that one's going to be really fun, and I'm going to be very interested to hear what our Patreon subscribers pick and ultimately vote for their pick for the Showdown episode. Once again, it'll be Steve versus me versus our Patreon listeners' pick for the Showdown episode. So, all right. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get into this fucking flick. This is a movie that I would absolutely put it amongst my favorite films of all time, but I don't watch it enough. And I think because it's, 2+ hours long. But there are plenty of other movies that are this long that I watch more frequently. I don't know why. When I think about movies that I love as much as I love this movie, I probably, a lot of other movies that fall in that rank for me, I probably have seen, 20, 30 times. This movie, I don't know, maybe five or six. Like this, I'm going to guess this has been like my sixth, like straight up watch through. I think I caught a lot of just like moments of it on cable. throughout the years. But not necessarily sitting down and really appreciating it for what it is. There are elements of it that I didn't love when I was younger that I have come to not bother me as much. And I used to be, a bigger fan of the original, but I think overall I do appreciate this movie a lot more as I get older. This is a huge assumption. Do you like this more than the first one, or do you prefer the 79 Alien more?
I honestly don't have I can't make the choice, and I just don't bother making the choice because I feel like they're too different.
They're very different movies.
Yeah. They're just way too different in trying to make the choice. Like outside of horror, I can easily say I like Terminator 2 more than I like the original Terminator.
Which is interesting because those two are very different, but there is such a clearly superior movie there, right?
Right. Yeah. It's so clear that Terminator 2 is just superior to the Terminator. The Terminator has a lot of great things in it, but just T2 is better. Yeah. This movie is its own thing. And I think it's because, when you're talking Terminator, it's James Cameron. When you're talking this franchise, it's Ridley Scott, James Cameron, David Fincher, that one French guy who some people remember. I can't even remember his name, but I do like some of his other films. I think didn't he also direct Delicatessen?
Oh, maybe. I don't know the name of the. I have to look it up. I'm not sure who we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. But so this franchise is all over the place, and every film has its own kind of unique style to it. And that's what makes the first one just as good as the second one, because it's Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Oh yeah, and he also directed Delicatessen and Amelie. I know that fact because the one guy who is the handicapped guy in the wheelchair. Yeah, he's like the star of Delicatessen. So that's how I always remember that. But
he also directed in 2022 a great movie, Big Bug. Oh, I don't know if it's great at all. It's just called Big Bug, so I got excited. I have no idea what the fuck it is.
Big Bug.
Big Bug.
It's also an Alien sequel.
I wish it is. And I looked at the poster here and I'm like, no, that's not what that looks like at all.
Yeah. Dan brings up, and this is something Dan brought up on the Patreon when I announced, what the movie was going to be for this week. And Dan's saying it now, and he's like, 79 Alien is a great pure horror movie that uses space as a setting.
It's a haunted house flick. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like this film, it has horror elements all throughout it, but it's so unique to the time of the 80s and 90s when you got blockbuster films that crossed every genre. Yeah. Like Aliens is so close in tone to Jurassic Park. Yeah. And they both have the monster element, they have horror elements, but then they also have like very humanistic elements, and they have like big action set pieces. That's why these films are so loved, because they blend everything together, and it's like a filling story. Yeah. To get all of those elements in one place.
The crazy thing about this movie too, that I'm constantly reminded of every time I watch it, is how well paced it is. Like this movie, like I said, the version I watched, 2 hour and 18-minute runtime, flew by. Just such a well-paced movie, like so watchable, so just enthralling. Nothing aside from maybe one or two little scenes where you could say like something dragged a little bit, it would be extremely nitpicky. I think this movie's beautifully paced, beautifully shot, and we won't probably get into all the nitty-gritty of it, but for those of you who are fans of the franchise especially, and even just genre fans in general, probably heard rumblings of this as one of the most famously tumultuous shoots, and really just the fact that this movie actually was released and happened and came to fruition at all is a bit of a fucking miracle. It was, stuck in, Fox didn't want to make didn't want to make a sequel for a long time.
Right.
And then, it was kind of stuck in like production hell for a while. Then when they finally did, start to shoot it, James Cameron famously giant asshole. Right. And then there was like this,
I'm on James Cameron's side.
I think I'm getting deja vu. I feel like you've defended Cameron in the past when I called him an asshole.
I'm sure I have.
Yeah.
And that's just because I think specifically on this film is, it's funny because I was also listening to some of the commentary for it's specifically for the DVD of the 2-hour 30 cut.
Yeah.
So, and it's a great commentary because it has James Cameron. It has like 4 or 5 separate, like just tracks that are all edited together. And like one track is just kind of James by himself talking about stuff. Another is Galen Hurd and Stan Winston talking about stuff. Another is like a cash track with Paxton, Bean, Hendrickson, and Jeanette Goldstein, and they're all doing a track. And then somebody edited all these together into one track. So you'll have like James talking about stuff, and then you'll have kind of like the cast following up with their side of the story in a way.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah. So it's like you get like different angles within the same scene of like how a scene came together.
Are they telling the tea here? Are they dishing it out?
Not from what I heard.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to the entire thing.
Yeah.
But like nobody's like really spilling the tea per se, but like in the cast track,
spilling the tea, not the as opposed to the very popular phrase "telling the tea," which I just said.
Right.
As soon as I said that, I was like, "That's not the phrase."
But it's in the cast track. There's like just a couple, I think good-natured barbs about just like hey, well, yeah. They weren't used to working because they were mainly talking about like the union workers in Great Britain.
Yeah, that's the story. Is like the British crew and James Cameron did not get along.
Right. And because the British crew was not used to working under the conditions that James Cameron was used to working under. And James Cameron, very specifically, comes from the Roger Corman School of Filmmaking. Yeah. Like, that's where he got his start. He got his start working as a production designer on Beyond the Battle. What the hell is it called? Battle Beyond the Stars.
Battle Beyond the Stars. Yeah, I kept stuck in it. Beyond the Battle too. Yeah. Battle Beyond the Stars. Such a fun flick.
Yeah, he got to start working on Battle Beyond the Stars, and then he was the production designer as well as second unit director, as well as like 3 other hats on Galaxy of Terror. And then directed Piranha 2.
Friend of the show, Galaxy of Terror.
Yeah, friend of the show, Galaxy of Terror. Movie rules, and you can understand why the production on that movie looks so great, because the production on this movie looks so great.
They're of the school of filmmaking where it's the down and dirty, get it done regardless of what it takes, just like no excuses, make it happen. And yeah, they had a bunch of dandy fops over here who were like, all union guys, which, listen, I'm pro-union, but I'm sure it was a bit of a culture shock. I would say there was cultural conflicts here between these two styles of filmmaking, maybe is a fair way of putting it.
Yeah. But that's why I defend James Cameron, because he comes from the school of Roger Corman, where everybody just works to get it done. Yeah. Like I am also a pro-union guy, but I also very much believe in just giving yourself over to making art properly and just throwing yourself into a project. Yeah.
This is like getting to the heart of the discussion of the idea of commercial art. You know what I mean? Like if the one thing I will say, and I'm a big Roger Corman fan, and I think James Cameron, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, probably. There is a degree of leaning on that idealism of just getting it done and making art, and kind of tapping that as an excuse to underpay and mistreat your workers too. You know what I mean? Like as great, as influential as Roger Corman was, and I mean, for that matter, Lloyd Kaufman too. Like,
oh yeah,
these guys,
for sure.
They're like, don't you love it? You know, they're the kind of guy. They are the type of boss that instead of a raise, they give you a pizza party. You know what I mean? There's a degree of that.
Yeah,
and I get it
a little bit.
So I always have mixed feelings. I feel like in Hollywood, like there's no true good guys or bad guys except for Kurt Russell. He's a good guy no matter what. Otherwise, like there's no full on good guys or bad guys. There's always a little bit of shades of gray here. So it sounds like more of a, you know, just from the I once upon a time went down quite a rabbit hole of Wikipedia and YouTube videos, you know, talking about the troubles in this production, but it's been quite some time. And it probably more than anything was probably just like two very conflicting ideologies about filmmaking.
Yeah. And in fairness to like Cameron, he's still very young when he makes this film because it's only his third feature that he's ever directed. And it's his like second feature in like the true studio system. Because, you know, he directed Piranha 2 under Corman. Yeah. And then, you know, he does The Terminator and then he does this film. Yeah. So, like, yeah, he's still very much of that mindset of like, hey, we're going to fucking just bust our ass to get this movie done. And like some of the other parts from that commentary I was listening to, like one of them was a story from Gail who was talking about how like James and the like the sound mixers and like the sound production designers, like all of those guys were just working in the living room when they weren't shooting. So like they would shoot and then they would go home, and then while they're at home, James and the sound production designers are designing the sounds for the film. And you know, they also had like some of the VFX and, you know, model makers on another track of the commentary, and they're talking about how they would spend the day at the studio and they would film with the models in the studio. And when they finished up, everybody would go home, all the actors would leave, and then these guys would be in the studio making more models. So like they were talking about like, okay, now it's time to put on our second shift of like, let's build models at night in this cold ass British warehouse or air hangar or whatever.
It's fucking brutal. Well, let's jump into the cast a little bit here, because we kind of tease. I mean, absolutely star-studded cast. And you know, I was looking through this, and this movie, all of these people, maybe with the exception of one, when I think, and they've been in a million things, but when I think about them, I think about them first as their role in this movie. So like Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. I mean, this is her, I think without a doubt, her most famous role. I mean, even Paul Reiser, like a lot of people think about him as like his sitcoms and stuff. I think about Paul Reiser as Burke, about the skeevy little bastard in this movie. I think of Lance Hendrickson. We're huge Lance Hendrickson fans. I think about him as Bishop first, more than any other of his bajillion genre roles. And honestly, Paxton too. Like, this was his most over the fucking top performance ever. Like, Paxton is going so batshit with the very specific type of like bro-y, freaked out like comic relief knucklehead character in this. I think about him even ahead of like Near Dark or Twister or like the million other things what did we just watch? Club Dread. Like Bill Paxton's one of my favorite performers of all time. I absolutely think of him first as Hudson.
It's really hard not to think about him as Hudson, especially because like he has all the best lines. Like everybody remembers like, game over, man, game over. Everybody remembers that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But just all throughout the film, he has like some of the best lines. Like when my favorite lines come when like they learn that Burke tried to impregnate them with the facehuggers, and like they just have him as a corporate shill, and like he has a gun pressed up Paul Reiser's face. He's just like, how about we just grease this rat fuck? It's just like, oh, shit.
He's got a lot of, yeah. And then Hicks even after that's like, let's fucking waste him. Like, there's just, they've got all the best like 80s action lines in like a fucking crazy horror movie. Yeah. So anyway, probably the one person that I don't think of as this being their most memorable role, even though it's a great role, it's just, I don't know why. I don't think about him in this. I don't like recognize him, weirdly enough, is, as you mentioned, Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn is Johnny Ringo to me in Tombstone. Because I love the movie Tombstone. And the scene, if you're familiar with the movie Tombstone, Johnny Ringo is like the bad guy's answer to Doc Holliday, right? So you got Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. Of course, he's sick and all this stuff. And Johnny Ringo is the hotshot new guy who's supposed to be the fastest gun in the West. And that showdown between them that culminates in this insanely great, like climactic scene, which I know it's a 30-year-old movie, but I'm not going to spoil it, because if you've never seen Tombstone, you need to fucking go see Tombstone like now. It's just like the rivalry and the ultimate showdown between Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday and Michael Biehn's Johnny Ringo. He's just so fucking good in that movie. He's really maybe the only exception. I'm looking at, I mean, obviously like Jeanette Goldstein, she's been in other things, but obviously I think of her as Vasquez. Yeah, I mean, everyone else is kind of a no-brainer, honestly. I mean, maybe Mark Rolston, you could argue people would think about him in other roles.
Yeah, I think of Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese.
Yeah,
like he's not. It's not that he's bad in this movie. It's just he's pretty even and doesn't stick out as much when compared to everybody else.
Yeah,
like his one kind of big character thing that I like about him is when they're descending to the planet and they're coming in, and you have Gorman, who is, this new lieutenant that they've promoted up through the ranks without ever having any actual experience or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he's like shitting himself as they're landing on a planet. And then Hicks is asleep. Like he's been rocked to sleep like a baby by the fucking, and so he's kind of that great, and they talk a lot about this in the commentary as well, as like how this film is portrayed against the lens of Vietnam. And so all the
even
Marines
the way
that
they wear their helmets, like they very much feel, and the smart aleckiness and the behind the scenes, like very jocular, dudeish, machismo bullshit of the whole thing. Even the Sarge chomping on the, like it just, it feels very much like a Vietnam film. Yeah.
And so like all of these Marines, they're not real Marines because they're not disciplined or anything like that. They are the guys that you saw in Full Metal Jacket and Apocalypse Now, who just are fucking biding their time until they get out.
Yeah.
And so Hicks has that flavor of somebody who has been in there so long that it doesn't matter to him anymore. He doesn't care. And so he's shaken by pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
And the only thing you get that like changes him is after everything goes to shit. He still is just doing his job, and he's reluctant to take that leadership role after, like, because it's Apone who is obviously in charge, and then Gorman gets knocked the hell out.
Right.
So that leaves Hicks in charge. And so like he's reluctant to take the role of leader, which is something, that would have happened a lot in Vietnam, which is like guys getting promoted up, unexpectedly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his character, the only thing I don't love about Hicks's character, he's a little bit of like a Mary Sue in that he never really has any type of conflict or there's never any moment where he needs to put himself second and put his people first, and he really thinks about it and feels like he has any type of like actual like moral conflict. He just he's just a little bit hesitant because he's not used to being in charge. Ripley's like, you got to do it. Get up there and do it. And he's like, oh hell yeah, all right. I'm Duke from GI Joe. I'm Duke from GI Joe now, and he never wavers. Yeah. He never wavers the rest of the time.
Right.
Whereas everyone else either makes a bad decision or wavers, or is just like Hudson, where he's just like a fucking maniac, head case. He's a little bit like, I would have loved to have seen a moment where like he does the whole like, I'm not even supposed to be here today kind of thing, and then changes his mind and then saves the day, but anyway, I'll digress, but
yeah, Hicks just doesn't have much of an arc, and like the kind of arc you're kind of looking for almost also comes by way of Gorman, because like we were talking about, Gorman has no combat experience or anything, but in the end he does try to sacrifice himself to save Vasquez. So like he gets a redemption in that way, whereas like it's revealed, obviously Burke is just the full-on villain of this film.
Yeah.
Like I think I was watching this again and just I was wondering, it's like, is there a definition of like corporate horror? Like this film is corporate horror.
Yeah.
And like, can we find more films like that?
Corporate horror, what a great subgenre. Yeah. Because like I immediately go to things that are more jokey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think of like what's that movie from a handful of years ago with the kid from The Walking Dead. It has a really
we did it on the show too, and it has Samara Weaving in it.
Yeah, it has a terrible title. It's a super fun movie with a terrible title, and it's like Rampage. It's not Rampage, but it's something like that.
It's close to that.
Yeah. And, but the movie's really, really fun, but it has a terrible title. Yeah, but that one's more jokey, right?
Yeah, and it's not so much. Like that one's not so much corporate horror. That's
workplace horror more than anything.
Yeah, it's like using a microcosm of workplace. The movie's called Mayhem.
Mayhem,
so
that's
Rampage.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, like there's something so horrific about like the way you see how the corporatization of everything led to this situation happening. Because we have Ripley getting saved 50 years in the future after the events of Alien.
Yeah.
And the first thing they do to her is put her in a litigation meeting, like where they're litigating the destruction of property from 50 years ago. So like it's very possible everybody who was in charge when Ripley was around. I mean, it's very likely everybody who was around when Ripley was on that station is dead, but they still have it on record that this needs to be litigated out. Yeah. And she gets punished for it, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, the bureaucracy lives on, regardless of 57 years have passed. But yeah, that's a great jumping off point. But if any listeners out there think of any other great examples of corporate horror, the first thing I can't get out of my head is Devil's Advocate. But that's not necessarily corporate horror as much as like corporatized evil, maybe. I don't know. And it's not pure horror either. But anyway, there's got to be better examples. If you have any, let us know.
I feel like you can see little bits of it in American Psycho, but again, that's just more focused on like the lifestyle of the 80s.
Yeah, yuppie culture compared to corporate culture. Yeah, this really has got to be the best example I could think of. Yeah, so like you said, the Nostromo, which is obviously the ship, we're basically picking up after the events of the first movie, where Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character, is in stasis. So she's kind of like suspended animation, if you will, with her cat from the first movie, Jonesy, I think is the cat's name in the first movie, right?
Yep.
And the Nostromo is, in bad shape. Spoiler alert from a movie from 1979. Ripley survives and kicks the fucking alien out the escape hatch, and then gets into stasis. Well, just a random, like, I think they call it like a scrap, some like the equivalent of like a scrapyard team that's just coming to find abandoned ships to salvage, a salvage crew, I think is what they call it.
It's so funny because this movie starts out great, of like this derelict ship drifting in space, and it's Sigourney Weaver, and then it starts out in a way that you're not sure what's happening. Like the ship gets picked up, and it looks like an alien abduction because there's nothing on the ship that's picking up her ship, and then the door gets cut open, and a fucking robot with a laser comes through, and you're like, oh, what is this? Is this space aliens?
Oh wait, this is Chopping Mall crossover. It just comes in, lasers everything. You're like, who the fuck is this? Yeah, exactly. You're like, is this?
Yeah,
that's a great point, because I'm sure I thought that the first time I watched him. Like, isn't this some dang old new aliens?
And then no, it turns out it's American Pickers.
Yeah, just looking for old violins or something to sell on eBay.
Yeah.
But they come in. Obviously, they discover them, and I love this is like a lot of like just. We don't need to see her transferred back and all that stuff. She's back in the, kind of in the hospital type of setting. The cat's there. And then all of a sudden you see in the, she's in her kind of hospital bed. You get introduced to Burke, like you said, who we learn is really he's a scumbag right off the bat. And then as the movie progresses, you learn what a true scumbag he is, masterfully played by Paul Reiser. He's in the hospital room, and he's from Weyland-Yutani Corp, who is the big evil corporate entity that owns everything, and was previously Ripley's employer. And he's a real piece of shit right off the bat. You could tell. He's the one who breaks the news to her that she's been in stasis for over half a century, and she's pretty bummed. And then she kind of starts freaking out and screaming and stuff. And she's like, kill me. And you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Then all of a sudden there's like a chest burster starts to come out of her, like from the first movie. It just hits the ground running. And then you quickly learn that it is, she kind of wakes up in this cold sweat, and it was a nightmare. So, it like brings that kind of, trauma from the first movie right to the surface super early on. I mean, we're like 5 minutes into this movie. It is a dream sequence, and I like, it's not a cheap dream sequence. They really do tie it into, how the story progresses, and more to the point, they show you that to show just how intense these dreams are, and show you why she is so adamant that when, a few minutes from now she gets, this request to go, with this crew where they suspect, there might be some dang old aliens. She is like super, super adamantly against it up front. But yeah, then they go and kind of debrief her or do this, almost hearing type situation that you'd mentioned with a bunch of suits. And they don't believe that, the creatures that she described exists, and, basically are trying to hold her responsible for purposefully, detonating the Nostromo because they lost, an enormous amount of money. Yeah. That was the whole thing. And like, I love that I made a comment in my notes later where I'm like, I'm making fun of the way that the Colonial Marines hold their guns. And I was like, I wish they would have had a like military consultant on set as much as they had some sort of corporate consultant on set, because they do a great job. They hold their guns like idiots, but they do a great job of using this like corporate speak when talking about life or death situations, and this like way of corporate rationale when it comes to just like, oh, fuck these people. And I think at one point, Paul Reiser, instead of saying, hey, this is way later when they're talking about destroying a large piece of equipment, they're like, let's nuke this motherfucker or whatever. And instead of him saying like, no, the company would lose a lot of money. That's not how someone that's been, scraping up the corporate ladder for two decades. That's an absolute piece of human garbage like him. That's just stepped on people's necks the way up the ladder and is responsible for, tons of people's deaths. He goes like, what's he say? It's like a substantial monetary cost or something like that. Just unnecessary corporate speak to basically say like, you can't do that. It's worth too much money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a whole lot of soft talk to get them to, like both confuse you and add words and just, try to soften the blow of like, we can't lose that much money. I won't let you do that.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that about the consultancies and everything. Is Cameron says on the commentary, he's like, I went back and watched this movie, and when I wrote it, I was young as fuck, so I didn't actually know anything about corporations or anything. I was just basing it off like other events that had happened at the time. And he's like, but now that I rewatch it, hey, I got it pretty good.
Yeah, he really did.
He just aggrandizes himself. He's like, hey, I got that pretty good. But then he also admits, like, he didn't know shit about the military or anything. And it wasn't until after his brother went into the Marines that he actually learned about the military.
Yeah.
So he admits to both sides. He's like, hey, I fucking nailed that corporate stuff, but yeah, no, I missed on the Marines.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It gives the characters a lot of color. Like if they were just like robotic by the book Marines, it would be boring as fuck. Right. So I think it plays to his advantage, but I also like, I mean, obviously it's a hallmark of Ripley, the Ripley character. She does not stand down to like the corporate suits and like basically tells them to go fuck themselves and that they're stupid. And one of the comments she makes, like one of the like underlings says something about, I don't know, the cost of something. And she's like, have IQs dropped dramatically since I went into stasis? Like she just said something like, just basically tells them they're all fucking stupid. And it's such a great scene. She just tells people off with just such fantastic vigor. So she's basically like, fuck you. You can tell me you didn't see us, whatever. Like I'm going to tell the truth. I know what happened. You guys don't believe me. You can go fuck yourself. And then they go out and they're like, just almost as an afterthought, which we didn't mention, but the planet that they were on, that they believe the alien, got on their ship from and all this stuff is LV-426. And they just almost say in passing as they're leaving the meeting room they're in that LV-426 is now inhabited by something like 60 to 70 families of terraformers. And they have this huge, power installation there. And it's like, it's a big settlement. And she's like, Mother of God, cause she's like, that obviously she knows that the aliens are there. So Gorman, right? Every time I want to say that, I sound like this. That doesn't sound right because like Psycho Gorman. Gorman's the dickhead, super green, like straight
lieutenant.
Out of the academy lieutenant. Yeah. And Burke show up to Ripley's, room that she's staying in and are like, never mind, we lost contact with LV-426. Like we kind of think shit already hit the fans there, and immediately is trying to talk to Ripley into going in as an advisor. And you quickly realize that it feels like they're blackmailing her. Like, hey, we're going to we're going to scapegoat you and hold you accountable for the Nostromo. But hush, hush, we also think things are going pretty bad here. And you're going to be blacklisted because of the blackmail. But if you agree to do this, we'll make you a pilot again. So they're basically, right. I mean, it's just straight up blackmail.
Yeah.
He acts like he's bribing her, but no, it's blackmail.
One of the interesting things that's kind of lost, and I think this is the big difference between the long cut that I watched and the cut you watched, is there's a scene before this that shows kind of the colony failing. And it starts in the habitat region, and there's a conversation between just kind of this chubby supervisor. Like you cut to the colony and it's just this guy who looks like a supervisor. He's just kind of a chubby guy in a work shirt. Like everything looks completely normal and boring and sucks, like very corporate. And he's having a conversation with another guy, and another guy is like asking him about a research survey team. Yeah. He's like, hey, we got this survey team out there, and the guy is worried about, does he get to keep what he surveys? Is what he finds his? Sure. It's like, yeah, the company will reimburse him. It's a real kind of boring conversation. But in that conversation, he asks, why'd you send them out there? And the supervisor's like, I don't know, dude. I just get a call from some big haunch on Earth, and he tells me to send people places, and then I do it.
Yeah.
And then if I try to ask them, they tell me, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
And so you get the sense that after they had this meeting, Ripley and the suits, that Burke then went and called the habitat and told them to send somebody out to survey that space. And then from that boring kind of like, work talk that they have in the habitat, you cut to Newt's family, and Newt's family is in like this little power tractor, and they're headed out to it. And you see like the crashed ship that's out there. And it's Newt's dad and mom. They're the surveyors, and then the kids tag along. And the parents leave the shuttlecraft, and then it cuts back to the like door being flung open, and the mom is like incredibly panicked, and then the dad is just laying on the dirt with a face hugger on his face.
Oh no! All right. See, I've not seen that version, so. All the times I've seen this, I have obviously seen the theatrical version, which is what I believe I have on VHS. So interesting. I have to go watch those extended scenes, because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does. It kind of implies that Burke is even more responsible, who's because later they do say, like, they kind of explain that he's responsible and all this stuff. But like, this is, early on. I wonder if I like it more the other way, because I guess.
Well, in that conversation, they don't say Burke.
No, but
they just refer to him as like some head honcho on Earth.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily assume that was Burke.
Yeah, you wouldn't assume when you're watching the movie it's Burke, and you don't even know for sure it is him. Maybe it was somebody else in that meeting that was like, hey, go look at that. Go check that out, because apparently there might be bioweapons there.
But it does suggest that they're trying to keep it under wraps.
Yeah, there might be bioweapons there. Go look at that. And then one guy does, and they bring him back to the habitat, and that's what spreads it all. Yeah.
Interesting. It's kind of the husky in the Thing scene that they just kind of brought took out of it. So I love these little sci-fi elements here. These just like don't need to be there, but it's the future, because they have clear plastic business cards, so you can just pop into a computer and it automatically video calls people, which is, come on, that's cool. That's cool. It's actually more charming now, because the screen resolution and stuff is fucking awful. But that you would have to have that little business card that you'd have to plug into a thing. Anyway, Ripley basically says like she wakes up after another one of these nightmares. And I think the insinuation is that she's come to terms with the fact that these nightmares are not going to stop until she faces, what's happening there. So she feels compelled to do that. And she basically says like, hey, are you going to fuck these things up, or are you going to study them? And he's like, no, we're going to, he of course tells her what she wants to hear. He's like, now we're going to fuck them up. And she's like, all right, I'm in. So this is where we meet the crew, which is a great scene. So again, we jump right to the mission has already been deployed, and the crew is all waking up from stasis from their trip, and we're meeting the whole crew here. So like you'd mentioned, Sergeant Apone, he is a full-on cartoon character with a big cigar. He's just doing a lot with the cigar all the time. He's kind of he's the drill sergeant almost type, right? You've got Mark Rolston, which I thought of afterwards. I was like, where people would probably know him more from is the greaser kid from Shawshank Redemption. But he plays Drake, who's like very enthusiastic, private. You have Private Vasquez, who she's like the badass, almost G.I. Jane type, right? And she's like, again, this is 1980s, this very like jocular Marine environment. And she's like this badass, like munitions person, like infantry type of person, carries a big giant gun. She's she makes it very clear that she's gay early on, and there's a lot of jokes about like her being, manly and stuff like that throughout. So, it doesn't hold up that great, but it actually doesn't not hold up either, because you very much get this, like, again, this like very machismo culture that they're in. You get Corporal Hicks, who we talked about as well. And then Bishop, who's a really interesting character played by the great Lance Hendrickson. And Bishop is, we don't really meet Bishop right away. I mean, we do, but we don't really learn a lot about them right off the bat. But I think it's actually the very next scene. But Bishop is basically an android. They refer to it as like an artificial human. So he has been like bioengineered or whatever. They don't get into the details of it. He's not just been bioengineered. He is like been like, his brain is a computer, from what I understand. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's closer to Data, right, than like like a cloned sheep. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. We learned later he doesn't have like regular human. He has organs, but he doesn't have like human blood. Anyway,
but he looks like, when you see the inside, he kind of looks like a washing machine full of milk is what his insides look like.
Kinda. Looks like a lot of plastic tubing that's meant to look like artificial organs. And yeah, just like a nice horchata on the inside. Yeah. Lieutenant Gorman, we talked about, he's like the guy who's very green, coming like straight out of the academy. He's supposed to be like kind of the mission like supervisor, if you will, from the ship, but he's kind of a fucking dork. Private Frost, Corporal Farrow, these people, like, you see them, but they don't really last that long, to be honest with you. Corporal Dietrich, Private Spunkmeyer really fucks up later. Private Werbowski. Again, these are kind of red shirts, to be honest with you. But we meet all these characters, and you're really getting a sense of this like very jocular environment that they live in, and it's a lot of like dick jokes and talking about fucking and blah blah blah, that sort of thing. Very, I will say, very sexually charged cast. Like, just really the whole movie. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more, but it's a very like sexually charged environment, I'll say.
Yeah, everybody, like, even though they just woke up, everybody is sweaty. Like,
sweaty, horny, slapping asses and doing chin ups and shit. Like,
yeah, because it takes what Ridley Scott did, and in Ridley Scott's film, everything is wet, and so that is just kind of the motif for every Alien film after that. Everything has to be wet. Yeah. And at all times, the actors will be wet. Yeah. And so when you go in for a close up, their faces are wet. Everybody is sweating. It's not that it's always gross. No. Because they don't do it in a gross way per se in this film, except for when it is supposed to be gross. Yeah. But it's just like everybody is glistening in the light. Like, that way, when all the fucking lights that Cameron has going off, like, because he has 30 different light sources in every scene, and it's all going to catch the sweat differently. Yeah, everything is. I mean, I think it all stems from the fact that these creatures are really going to look a lot better wet, dark and wet, and and so we're making everything dark and wet from here on out. Dan wanted to mention how quickly the cigar goes in Apone's mouth as soon as he gets out of the sleep bed. Yeah. And then he is just, this is gross to me. He chews on that fucking thing in every scene. God. And just like, I don't even think he's smoking it. He's literally just chewing the tobacco out of it. He is. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that is another example of it just being like, I mean, he is assaulting that cigar. He is just doing all types of stuff with it, chewing it, licking it, slurping it, just like he's going fucking hard on that thing. Yeah. So the great little scene where, like, I think it might be Hicks holds. Basically, they want Bishop's like I said, is like an android, right, or whatever, something like that. So he can do these like certain things, because has like, I would assume, like, near perfect hand-eye coordination, and does this thing with a knife,
and you see him like bouncing the knife on his finger and stuff, and he's like doing the old like sailor at the table in the tavern trick where he's like stabbing between his fingers. And Bill Paxton's character Hudson wants him to do it, but then he does it to him, and like Hicks like holds him, and then he stabs a bunch of times between his fingers at like super rapid speed. And you start to get the idea right off the bat that Hudson's a little bit of a spaz, right? He's gonna fucking lose it, and go, God, man. He just says man a lot, that sort of thing, which is a big part of his character. Ripley is the one who realizes Bishop is an android, and is really not psyched about having the android on the ship because of what happened in the first movie. And there's kind of tension right away between her and the rest of the crew, because for them, Bishop is like a trusted kind of member of the crew. They get the whole crew together for Ripley to brief them on what she experienced. She tells them about the face huggers and the pods and all this stuff. And no one in the crew is taking it seriously. Like I said, they're just like kind of 1 foot out the door. Like, let's get in here. Let's fucking blast them and let's get the fuck out of here. They're very cynical. They feel more like a fraternity or like a high school football team than like Marines, Yeah. And even that's like how the sergeant kind of treats them too.
Oh yeah. He definitely just treats them like a den mother. Mm-hmm. Like he's just herding cats with these idiots for the most part.
Yeah.
And he gets them to fall in line when they need to, but for the most part, like they do not seem to be even half as well as trained as like Rico's Roughnecks and is Starship Troopers. They
not even close.
Do not have their shit together. Yeah.
No, they are ragtag. Like they've got their own, like they feel like mercenaries or something. They just got their own equipment like that, and they've got shit real written on it and stuff. Again, this very like Vietnam feel.
Right. And in a way, they mostly are like mercenaries because their job is to go and protect corporate assets. Mm-hmm. Like the Earth isn't really at war with anybody.
Yeah.
So you just have these, it's hard to define whether or not like it's a private kind of like Blackwater operation that these guys work for, or if they are just like a government, formed colonial marine service. But whatever it is, the Weyland-Yutani can put the call out and say, hey, we need the Marines to come to this planet here. Mm-hmm. And then, the Marines have their own chain of command, and Gorman is at the top of their command, but Burke also has some some say. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be on the mission.
Yeah, it's more like it's the thing, like technically the military is in charge, but we actually know where the money's coming from here kind of thing. So there's a little bit of a power struggle going on. But as they're prepping for the mission, we do get our first look at Ripley in the power loader. So they basically have these, in place of a forklift, essentially, they have these like almost suits that you get in that you can kind of have little grabbers and loaders, and it's for loading cargo ships. And they start to get the idea that she's very capable, and they're like surprised that she can operate it so well. Little foreshadowing for later. Like I said, everything is very sexual charged, from the dress. Like Ripley doesn't need to wear underwear and like a tank top with no, not that she needs to wear a bra, but you get my understanding. Like it's very sexually charged. The banter, very sexually charged. Everything. Like we mentioned, Apone is downright perverse in the way that he handles that cigar. Like it's over the top. Vasquez and Drake are literally horny for guns. Like Vasquez, both of them. Like they are getting sexually aroused by their guns. Hudson, whenever they're going to fight, like will start screaming like, let's get it on. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing is just like guns is dicks. Yeah. And also cigars too, but
both Vasquez and Drake like fucking J.O. to Kentucky Ballistics YouTube channel.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's exactly the type of people these are. I am concerned about why the pilot needs sunglasses in deep space. I'm just gonna leave it.
Because he's fucking cool, dude.
It's just for being cool. It's just for being cool.
Yeah. Because there's lightning. Didn't you see the lightning?
Yeah, there's lightning. I guess that's why.
Yeah.
This is where they start to learn that Lieutenant Gorman is very, very green during the drop, right? Which is essentially where their little shuttle drops out of the main ship, and then inside the little shuttle that's like more maneuverable that they get down and land. They also have this little, what I can only describe as halfway between BattleBot and Batmobile that comes out of the ship that like transports them like into the fray, if you will. So they land, they pop out in their little car. So they're all in the little car except for Gorman, Burke, and Ripley are up in the in the kind of the main ship talking to them. And they get down, it's immediately pouring rain. The place looks completely deserted. You get this great, they kind of key into this little facility and they start looking around, and you get this really great like extended suspenseful scene where they go in and they're nervous. They don't know what they're going to find. They're going to find much because they're not seeing anything. They're not, like, their lights are on, but they're not seeing any people. They're not seeing any activity. It just almost looks deserted. So they don't know what they're going to find. If they're going to find a bunch of corpses, or they're going to find fucking aliens everywhere. So they go in to one of the buildings and everything's all fucked up, right? There's water dripping everywhere. There's like, shit's kind of tore up. There's no sign of life. Also no like corpses anywhere. And the sound design really hammers home the tension, I think, really well. There's no music, just like the trickling water and this like distant, like kind of echoey steps of assuming all the Marines. And then the music slowly starts to like peak out a little bit and then duck back down. And it just gives this effect that something is lurking like just out of view. And it's just like, a lot of times you see these scenes and you say, I mean, Halloween's a great example where they say like, it's not scary or tense at all until you add the music. This is one of the rare instances where it's the inverse. The sound design is so prescriptive, I guess I'll say, in this way, where it's like barely any music at all, but it's really, really adding. It's really adding to the tension.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely adding to the tension. And the other thing they want you to pay attention to more than the music is the motion detector noise, which has become like so ubiquitous with the rest of the series, and like it's in every Aliens video game.
Mm-hmm.
But they really want you to pay attention to that thing because it becomes repeated throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I really like about this scene when they're investigating is they're, like you're saying, there's no bodies, but there's definitely like a sense that something happened out of nowhere.
Yes.
Because there is, it's one specific shot, and it's so silly, but there is a shot of a cup of coffee and a half-eaten donut sitting on a desk.
Oh, yeah, I missed that.
But like, that's just how something went down in the middle of just like a normal day, because somebody left their coffee and donut behind. Like, nobody takes 3 bites out of a donut and leaves the rest, and then like half drinks of coffee.
Yeah.
Unless they are in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
And it's just such a little, like, it's dumb, but it is perfect to explain that something bad happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful. It's just like, everything's in disarray, but yeah, it doesn't feel like there was a measured fight as much as just like a spontaneous something happened spontaneously. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to find holes where spots were like melted through the floors and ceiling. Obviously, Ripley has told them about the aliens having acid blood. So this is suggesting, there was some fighting here. But again, no bodies. They do find the rest of the teams. Oh, they end up kind of splitting up to kind of move around, right? They find this lab with some face huggers that are in suspension. And obviously whoever was here was studying them. And a couple of them are actually still alive, like in these little, like kind of floating tank things. Then they start getting the motion signal, which you talked about, becomes ubiquitous in the franchise, and it's a very memorable scenes in this movie where they have this like little thing that's just like, where are they? Oh, they're 20 meters away. They're 10 meters away. This is a recurring thing. So they were finding no motion up until this point, and now all of a sudden they're picking up some motion, and it isn't from their team. They determine that. They find a little bit of a build up, and then they quickly learn it's this little girl who is holed up. She's obviously very skittish, and she bites one of them, whatever. Name's Rebecca Jordan, aka Newt. She says she goes by Newt, which I don't think they ever explain why she goes by Newt. It was just kind of a pet name that her family had for her, right?
Yeah, I don't even think it's something that was in that deleted like tractor scene.
Yeah.
It might have been, but I don't remember like ever explaining why they gave it to her.
I will say, when I was younger, I didn't love the character of Newt. I still don't love the character of Newt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it needed to be there. I understand what it adds to the party a little bit here, but like, I don't know. That just always felt like whenever I see that in a movie where it's just like, hey, throw a kid in there to make it seem more dire. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just never, I usually am not a fan of that trope. And I don't love the performance of the kid. I understand it's a kid performance. You have to like give them a little bit of, but there's just so many great, it's just so glaring when there's like a really amazing kid performance versus a not so great one. I just feel like this one's not so great.
Yeah, she doesn't have much, and then like some of her line deliveries is fucking bad.
Well, and also, does she sometimes have a British accent and sometimes not? It's just,
yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah. And I don't know if it was, I assume she's British, because like that, again, that was another one of the big things about making the film in Britain, is like they had to hire a certain number of British actors. Yeah. Oh no, she's from Florida. So that makes even more sense as to why her British accent comes and goes and it's fucking bad.
Yeah.
Because she's from Florida. But again, this is something I don't know if this is totally cut out or not. I think this is cut out from the theatrical release, but the scene where Ellen Ripley learns that her daughter is dead. Was that?
No, that's not in the scene. It's not in the version I saw.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is much earlier in the film. This is back like generally around the time she just wakes up, and Burke reveals to her that her daughter died. Like her daughter was 66 years old and had died. And just an interesting thing, like he shows her a picture of her, like her obituary, and it's like an older lady, and it's actually a picture of Sigourney Weaver's mother. So she's looking at her own mom as her kid. It's like just a weird little silly thing they did, but
yeah, it's interesting. No, that's such a strange thing, because that would have made her, I mean, you didn't need that to communicate why she had the connection to Newt. It's just a little girl that she was the only one that she could get through to, and it's I guess it's not needed, but it's weird that that wasn't in the theatrical version. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think having that knowledge, because I don't know how much that is gone over in the original Alien film about her being a mom, but like she has kind of like this terrible scene, like terrible heart-wrenching scene about like, oh, she lost her daughter, and like she was supposed, like after the Nostromo job, she was supposed to be back for like her daughter's 11th birthday. That's when her scheduled time was supposed to be up. Yeah. And so now they reframe it to this idea that like, well, she didn't get the chance to care for her daughter, at this time, but now she has a second chance with this little girl, which is, it's more about Newt being in service to the character of Ripley rather than us actually giving a shit about Newt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like ultimately, she starts calling her mommy. I don't know. That felt a little bit forced. Like anyway, So, but Ripley's the only one that can kind of get through to her because she seems like she's not going to talk at first, but then she comes around. They find this spot in one of the cooling towers, I think it was, where they believe that the aliens, the xenomorphs. I'll start saying I keep calling them aliens and aliens and all this stuff, but they're xenomorphs, right? We come to learn that. They are apparently congregating in some capacity there. They can tell via. I forget if it's like heat signals or something like that. So they find these big, crazy like corridors full of, I think what they describe as this like solidified, some sort of organic resin, not unlike like a wasp or something like that, or a bee's nest or something, right? Well, I guess the wasp nest more like the paper, but like a bee's nest, and they like solidify it into like a kind of a honeycomb type thing. So this almost looks more like some sort of like, I don't know, it reminds me of like a mud wasp or something like that. But they use, instead of using like organic material, they secrete some sort of like resin that then becomes hard and sets. And they've got all these little like catacombs and things like that they've built out of this. And then they're kind of coming down through the area. They're of course checking out the place, trying to secure it. And Ripley, Burke, and Gorman are up in the ship, and Ripley explains, hey, they what kind of weapons do they have? Well, they just have like standard rounds, firearms that fire these standard rounds. But then they have a couple other things. They have grenades and they have flamethrowers. But basically, she says like you can't fire off rounds in there. There's some sort of like coal compressor there, something like that if you puncture it, it's gonna blow up the whole fucking planet. So they basically say like, hey, you guys can't fire your guns. So they take everyone's guns, and again, these people are so horny for guns that it's like you're asking them to cut their dicks off and putting them in a bag, but they can only use the flamethrower. So now they're even more vulnerable, kind of walking through these little catacombs. Hicks does still have like a pistol. He has like a pistol grip shotgun. I think it's Hicks, and it's a couple other people have like guns that they're not giving up, but they start to find people who are like trapped. This is probably the scariest scene in the movie for me, or certainly one of them. They find this people that are like trapped in the solidified resin, and it's almost a Han Solo type situation, right? Where they're like stuck, or it looks maybe like hardened tree sap or something. Mm-hmm. But they are all trapped in like suspended animation in these things. You just assume they're dead at first, but you're also seeing these like little egg/cocoon things all around. And then they find this one woman and she's still alive. And it's such a great practical effect. She's so creepy. She just looks like all the life has been sucked out of her. And when they realize, they're like, oh, they have a live one here. And she's like, kill me, kind of like Ripley was doing in her dreams. And all of a sudden, boom, chest burster pops out. They flamethrow the whole damn thing. It's a wild scene. And then shit really starts unraveling from there. Like shit hits the fan fast.
Yeah. It is such a great, it's such a great scene because throughout the film building up to this, even like when the first like title comes up on the screen, we've been getting like these little military marching drum rolls throughout the soundtrack. You get like, it just sounds very militaristic, and it's supposed to kind of just get you hyped up because you go, oh yeah, now I saw what happened in that first movie, but now we got fucking guns and we got Marines on our side. We got the military. Hell yeah, brother. We're going to go in there and just fuck these monsters up. Mm-hmm. And then this scene happens and everybody's ass just falls apart. And it's just, it takes everything that you had hopes for and throws you right back in the well of, oh fuck, everything's fucked.
Yeah. We're not tough. They're going to fucking kill us. Like they start to see signals on the motion tracker, like coming from all around them. And Ripley's like, get the fuck out of there. Then possibly the coolest scene they're like hiding along the wall, like one of the xenomorphs, like a full-on giant xenomorph, like unravels almost from like the wall behind them, and then that's when shit hits the fan in a big way. Meanwhile, Gorman is just like flop sweating, shits his pants, and is not providing them any help or direction or anything. And Ripley basically takes control and just says like, "Hey, assholes, get the fuck out of there." She ends up going and like grabbing the little car thing and takes off, blasts through the wall to try to save them. Meanwhile, Vasquez blows one of them apart like as they're escaping, and blood splashes on Drake and like melts his fucking face off. And I mean, this is when you're talking about shit hits the fan. It's not just like confusion, like people are dying. Characters you've been introduced to are like just dropping like fucking flies right now. Like mostly red shirts are getting it, but like Drake, you thought was going to be around for a second, but right. he's not.
Because I mean, him and Vasquez were buddies. They were, arm in arm. The one thing I wanted to point out, and I assume they're just being silly when they did this, but there's the one Private Frost, and he's one of the first ones to die, but he gets hit with the flamethrower.
Oh yeah, accidentally gets him. Yeah, this is when I say shit hits the fan. It's like it's not just they're getting munched. They are bumbling. He literally sets one of his comrades on fire and flips him down like a fucking giant shaft. Like he's but things are going bad.
Frost gets set on fire. Come on. He's being silly.
You bunch of sillies. Just as they're trying to like escape back into the little Batmobile there, one of them pops its head in the door as it's closing. Hicks puts the shotgun in its mouth, blasts its head off, but then blood squirts on Hudson's arm and he's screaming, making having a fit because it's obviously the acid's burning his arm. Ripley goes straight Dom Toretto on him and fucking and just like spins it around, backs it up, flips one off the car, runs it over. Like she's using her wheelmanship, I guess, for some. She's a pilot, right? We're meant to think.
Yeah,
but
they killed her family, and now they're trying to kill her new family, and she's not having about it.
Now they're going after La Familia. They explain that Apone, who was like the sergeant, he got fucked up real fast, and basically Ripley's like, yeah, no. They're like, well, Apone, we're still seeing his like his tracer on the thing. Like we know he's alive. And Ripley's like, no, he's might be alive, but he's being cocooned and they're using him to like incubate some fucking eggs. Right. So, this is a little baby xenomorph is going to be growing in his ass. And it's pretty grim at that point. And this is when Paxton, because shit has hit the fan, Paxton's lines really go from 0 to 60 here. He's just throwing out all types of wacky shit about how they're fucked and his arm and blah blah blah. Like he's in full freak out mode at this point. This is when they decide to nuke the site, and because they're like, what are we going to do? What options do we have? We're trapped in here without a lot of ammunition, and they're like, all right, we're gonna figure out a plan to just nuke the whole fucking site. And this is when Burke is worried about this is a substantial dollar investment or whatever. And you really start to get his true colors at this point, if you haven't already picked up. This is when Hicks, becomes the kind of ranking person at this point. And so they're trying to get back on the ship. Fucking Spunkmeyer fucks up and lets one of the xenomorphs like back on the craft, like the main craft. You get this really good jump scare, and you get this kind of close up of the alien a couple of times where they like show their teeth, and it's almost like saliva or some sort of like digestive fluid or something that's like flowing over their teeth, and it almost looks like mechanical way. It almost looks like liquid mercury or something like that,
Yeah.
like flowing over
Yeah.
their teeth. I would love to know how they got that effect. And then you get that classic, shots of the open up the mouth and then the other little smaller mouth comes from inside it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just the way they kind of built these models versus like the way the alien was in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of like, it looks like a lot of clear resin. It's especially like on the teeth of the alien queen. Like all her teeth are pretty translucent, so you can see through that. But so I think it's just something about the way they build it out of like different resins, and then the way they run the water. And I'm assuming from behind the mask, they have like little pipes that go into the mask that spurts out the water, and then it just drips out, and then again everything's wet again. Everything's wet.
Everything's
all
wet and slimy and slippery. Yeah, this is where you get the ship with the xenomorph on it. You get a cool little scene of like the pilot turning around when she's coming back to pick them up, and boom, there's a freaking there's a xenomorph on the ship, fucking splats her, and the ship crashes. And this is where everyone's like, oh my God, we're fucked. We're stuck here. We can't get out. This is the, game over, man, game over, scene. Everyone's just losing their mind. This is
such a great.
Oh, go ahead.
It's a great effect. Like it looks dated now, but it looks so cool as it's done because you have a foreground of all the actors of Sigourney and Paxton and all of them. They're all in the foreground of this like set. That's it's like it's just like a sci-fi outdoor set.
Yeah.
And then it's composited over a background, and the background is all miniature of this miniature ship that's like crashing and flipping end over end and exploding as it rolls towards them. Yeah. And it looks fucking cool, even though like you can see the seams in it now. But yeah, it still looks great.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a model or a set or anything like that. It feels like they are in danger, when it's kind of coming down and crash. I'm gonna say crash landing, I guess, near them. But also another such a strange stilted line, but has become an iconic line that gets parodied mostly in a joking way. When Newt goes, we should find shelter or whatever. It's getting dark. They mostly come out at night. Mostly. Such a weird line delivery that's been parodied so many times. I remember specifically like Tiny Toon Adventures parodying it. I remember Alton Brown on Good Eats parodying it. Like, I'm sure there's more famous ones than that, but those are the first.
I think South Park is.
Oh God, yeah, South Park with what's her name? What's the girl?
It was from.
Cartman. It was Cartman.
Like,
it was Cartman. That's right.
Yeah, Cartman was just watching Aliens, and then he started repeating it.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, it's such a. Yeah, that's definitely the most famous one. But it's such a strange, stilted line delivery. And also, I would assume word for word how it was written. It's just a strange line in general. She
only has probably like 30 lines in total, and then she just kind of biffs the one. Like the one line I like that she delivers is when she delivers affirmative.
Affirmative. God, that's such a fucking bad line to finish the movie too.
It's it's like it's a little kid thing. Like when they're doing it at the meeting, and they're all huddled up and like they're explaining everything that's going on, and everybody's like affirmative, and then she's wearing Hudson's helmet and she's like affirmative, and then it's like okay, she's still like a kind of cute little kid a little bit, but then the rest of her lines are just like whatever.
Yeah, it's bad. So. All right, let's move on a little bit here. So Ripley's kind of taking charge at this point. She puts the whole crew to work. They basically explain like they're going to have to last 17 days, if they stick around for a rescue mission. And Hicks and Ripley are also having some kind of flirtatious, like kind of slightly sexy kind of connection, which I always thought felt forced, because I always thought the character of Ripley was gay. I don't know. It always felt like that to me for whatever reason. So the Hicks thing, I don't know, always felt a little forced. That's kind of the one. The character interactions and the arc of Hicks, even though I think he does a fine performance, is just not my favorite part of the movie. But
yeah,
she's not as bad as Newt. Newt is the worst part of the movie, but that's the second worst part, I'll say.
Yeah, that also is expanded on, but I don't think it's made more valid in the longer cut. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's made more valid. But like as far as like Ellen's being gay, it's like I think that's more of a product of Alien 4.
Yeah, I think it's become also like a little bit of like a almost fanfic action too. Like I think a lot of people I've heard cite like the character of Ellen Ripley as being like a crush for them, like a same sex crush for them too.
For sure.
So I think it's kind of like how the Babadook became a gay icon. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, why not? But yeah, like in the first film, she has no romantic entanglement with anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, and that was one of the important things about the film that made it stand out, is like, oh, you mean there's a woman who's not like fawning over a man?
Oh yeah, like and then we all go must be gay, because it's 1986, right?
Right. And then she, like, the closest connection she has is with Tom Skerritt as Dallas. I think is like as close as she gets to like maybe a romantic entanglement, but even then I think it's just friendliness. And then you get Alien 3 where she's head shaved, butch, in a prison with men, but she does fuck.
Yeah.
So it's confusing. Like she does fuck in the prison, but she's still also head shaved butch. And then in Alien Resurrection, she like has a lot of weird sexual tension with Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
And you're like, maybe she's just into whatever. She just takes what she can get.
Yeah, maybe she parties. But it was like I don't know. I just felt the Hicks thing was I don't know. It wasn't missed in the first movie, so it's like putting it. They don't necessarily explicitly get lovey-dovey necessarily, but it feels like at least he's going down that path, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, it's something that's cut out from the longer version, but there's a scene where like, as they're kind of like, as she is, I believe it's as she's on her way to save Newt, they're kind of saying goodbye to each other. And like, she's like, take care of yourself, Hicks. And he's like, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Cause his name is Dwayne Hicks.
Dwayne
she's like,
Hicks.
Yeah. And she's like, it's Ellen. And then it's kind of like, oh, they're on first name date basis now. Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
So
but
cute.
Then she was like, Dwayne? What the fuck?
Yeah. Dwayne. Yeah. The whole elevator ride down to the alien queen nest. She's like, Dwayne.
Dwayne.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I can deal with that.
Ellen Hicks? That doesn't sound good either.
Nah.
Pass.
Hard pass. Hicks does give Ripley this locator, which then she in turn just hands right over to Newt. So that is, we're kind of planting that for later. Great bit of foreshadowing when they're all talking about, okay, so here's kind of what we know, right? We got the dang old eggs, we got the face huggers, here's how it works, blah, blah, blah. And then that like, well, who's laying these eggs? Is like a great little scene where you're like, ooh, there's going to be some big old baddie at some point. Bishop tells Ripley that Burke told him to keep the face huggers alive. And, and Ripley gives him the business immediately. And, he's getting really outed at this point for being this like slimy corporate douche. Then, when he really kind of goes up, when she really goes up against him, they figure out that he was responsible for all of these colonist deaths. And I don't know if that, with the more I think of it, the more I kind of come to terms with the fact that like without that scene at the beginning that you mentioned, that does feel a little bit more ham-fisted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
right.
It feels like it should be a bigger part of the discussion. Otherwise, if it wasn't, like, we would know how what am I trying to say? I think it would make more sense as part of that conversation if she just didn't kind of come to that conclusion on her own, and we as an audience could support her assumption.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like we have the evidence as an audience to support that Burke sent those people to look at that specific spot, and that's why now all of these events are kicking off rather than just the simple happenstance that people were living on LV 426, and then the aliens just happen to attack them the same time Ripley wakes up. Doesn't feel quite as good as Ripley wakes up, gives them information, and Burke uses it to destroy the colony in hopes of trying to, capture a bioweapon. So like, it makes more sense that way. But at the same time, Ripley doesn't know that he did that. He doesn't know that he sent those people to the original crash site of the engineer.
No, she would have no way of knowing that anyway. But like, at least it would give us as an audience a little bit of ammunition, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can support it, even though it still doesn't completely make sense within the script. It's one of those things where like it makes sense within the story, but it doesn't make sense within logic of the script and characters. Yeah. So, yeah.
We get this scene where like, I don't know. I wonder if you have to tell me if there was more about it in the extended cut, but Bishop volunteers to basically crawl like 180 meters through this little tiny pipe, which, ultimately he's going to retrieve the ship, but he's also, is he going to place the charges too?
He's placing the charges and retrieving the ship from the Sulaco.
Yeah, it's kind of poorly explained, and I kind of forgot about this scene, which is surprising because it's such a nightmarish idea of being sealed into that little tiny pipe and having to crawl up. But I mean, he's an android, so it's be all right, I guess. But so he's sent off to essentially fix the problem, and like Bishop does become like recognized very much, as a hero later on, but it's interesting that he really saves the day several times over. And like up until this point, I just wanted more Bishop, I guess. Like he was a more integral part of the story. And essentially he just gets sent off on an errand that ultimately saves everybody.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, bye-bye. All right, he'll be back when we need saved later.
Well, he's a robot, and like that's the kind of thing that you depend on robots to do.
Yeah, go do all the work.
The sentry guns they set up as blocks, the sentry guns do their job. So it's just like synthetics just do their job, robots do their job. The thing I like about Bishop's character is this is a precursor to Terminator 2, but it's the same turn. Is in Alien, the synthetic Ash gets super involved with the alien creature. Like he starts to admire the xenomorph because he sees what a perfect creature it is and how it's like better than humans. Yeah. And so he starts betraying people because of his like admiration for this creature. Yeah.
You kind of thought something like that was going to happen.
Yeah. And you assume that's what's happening with Bishop in this film, because one of the first things he does after they get off the ship is he starts doing little autopsies on the facehuggers. And like, that's all he starts doing for a while, is like, he gets super interested in taking apart and studying the creatures just the same way Ash did. And so you assume that he's going to, he's going to turn eventually like Ash did, but he gave that one line of dialogue earlier in the mess hall. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, those fucking androids were all bunk. And that's why they gave us new, restrictor chips, so
Yeah.
I could never hurt a human or let harm come to a human.
Mhm.
And then he was just telling the truth because he's a robot.
Yeah.
You just had to take him at face value. And it's hard to do that because Burke is also telling you things straight to your face
Mhm.
of, no, we're not going to study them. We're going to kill them all. And, he's also telling you what you want to hear.
Right.
And they both come from the same company. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't think about the idea they both come from the same entity, which is obviously Weyland-Yutani. But I wonder if, like, what's the message there? Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but like the robot is more trustworthy than the person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's just literally that obvious in face value. It's like, people are fucking shitty and they act in self-interest. I don't know. But
yeah, I think James Cameron just wanted to do a little turn where he something that was the bad guy is now the good guy this time.
Sure.
And then he did it again for Terminator 2. He's like, yeah, he just likes doing that turn. That's all.
Yeah. It's just probably not much more than that.
I think he does it again in Avatar 2. I think Sigourney Weaver is kind of a bad guy in Avatar, and then she is a good Avatar in Avatar 2. I haven't seen them both, but I've heard enough about both movies. I'm pretty sure that turn happens again.
Yeah.
He loves it.
I can't imagine watching Avatar 2. I can't imagine. I can't imagine a scenario in my life where I'd be willing to watch Avatar 2. So this little gun demo here between Hicks and Ripley made an entire generation of 12-year-olds horny for guns. First of all, it's a super cool gun. Second of all, they're kind of being horny with each other. A lot of sexual tension, cool guns. It's everyone got really horny for guns. Like, this is the exact moment where everyone got super horny for guns. Gorman wakes up because he got bonked on the old dome during when shit first hit the fan earlier, and he wakes up and Ripley, like, he tries to like come back and like I guess just apologize, and Ripley basically tells him to kick rocks. And you don't see a lot of Gorman for a little while. The face huggers now have gotten loose, and they're kind of coming after Newt and Ripley in their sleep. And there's this big scene where they get trapped in one of the labs with, live face huggers, the two live face huggers that they mentioned earlier. We just see Burke. He sees what's happening on the camera that is, pointed into this lab area. And he just kind of nonchalantly goes up and shuts off the screen so the rest of the crew won't see what's happening. But Ripley, in some fast thinking, puts a lighter up to the fire system, and which obviously the sprinklers turn on and everybody gets alerted. And they just bust in there and blast them, like, right before they're about to get face hugged. This is when I was like, I can't believe that Hudson is, made it this far, because he's just a fucking spaz. Like, he doesn't know how to shoot a gun. He just blasts indiscriminately in all directions. He's almost like that character in movies where they give him a gun because there's just a lack of people, and then they just spray incoherently and end up doing more damage than good. Like, that's kind of the kind of character we have here with Hudson. He like seems surprised every time he squeezes the trigger that it discharges.
It shocks him.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing because, again, earlier when we're introduced to these Marines, I think it's even Hudson who asks. He's like, what are we dealing with here? Is I forget what he calls it, the first thing. He's like, is it this, or I think he's asking, like, are we putting down an insurrection, or is this another bug hunt?
Yeah.
And so it gives you the idea that they have had some sort of conflict in the past with alien creatures.
Yeah.
Of like an insect, at least an insect nature. But they have definitely gone out and killed, like, groups of lesser life forms.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's interesting that like he is so shocked when he has to pull the trigger, because it's like, were they just like doing pest control before, that in a way that you know when you just kind of like shoot off your back porch and like fucking like a rodent or something?
Yeah,
is that what they were doing before? Like they weren't a creature that was hostile, but it was numerous enough that you had to shoot it with a gun.
Yeah, like they were just out doing some sort of wild ass, just blasting big cockroaches or spiders or some shit.
Yeah, they found like a space version of roly polies, but they're like 3 feet long or something.
Yeah, they just had to blast them. It sounds really fun. Yeah, this is when Ripley like outs Burke to the whole crew, and they're like, let's waste him kind of thing. But he gets saved by the power going out, so they're out scouting that. Hudson and Vasquez go out and scouting and whatever, and then they end up falling back when all the shit starts coming, on the motion detector, and they try to like weld this door shut as a bunch of them are like closing in on the door. And this is like an extended, it almost becomes a lot with Hudson doing the like 20 meters, 10 meters, 9.5 meters, 9.25 meters. Like it's just going on for a long time. But ultimately, they're like, well, no, they should be in the room if they're that close. Hicks looks up into the ceiling and sees a bunch of them like hanging upside down on some pipes, like crawling towards them. So that's a pretty iconic shot. Of them like all like a big group of xenomorphs hanging upside down, crawling towards them up in the ceiling of, compared to where they're at. So we got a big old firefight here. And just when you're starting to think like Hudson's starting to get a little bit competent, he starts killing a bunch of them. He gets pulled down into a fucking like trap door, like he got, sucked into a zombie, a bunch of zombies or something. So pretty unceremonious end for Hudson there, but I feel like he deserved an on-screen death. I mean, he does get sucked into there, but like he needed something more than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially because that's James Cameron's boy. Like they first met when Paxton was working as a carpenter on Battle Beyond the Stars.
Oh, I remember you said he worked as a production design person on a bunch of those Corman movies.
Yeah. So while Cameron was working as production designer and like a model maker, Paxton was working as a carpenter on that film. And that's how the two of them met. And then also Cameron met his wife, Gillian Hurd, on that film as well, because she was Corman's assistant. But
I remember us talking about that. Yeah. When we watched that movie.
But then so Cameron puts Paxton in the Terminator, and he got that really kind of famous death because he gets punched by Naked Arnold, as one of the goons. So unfortunately, he doesn't get a good death in this film, but I think Cameron makes it up to him by putting him in True Lies and gives him probably one of the best roles in True Lies. So
he a couple people don't get great deaths in here. I mean, Burke gets a pretty gets an off-screen death. I mean, he locks them out. He does one more final shitty task, and he like sets them at a disadvantage, runs away on this escape route, and then all of a sudden, we get Mr. Smiles again, pops up with that same kind of big toothy grin, but then we don't even see him like twist Burke's head off or anything.
So that's the other thing is like we're not always supposed to assume it's a death though, because they are taking them to be bred in the hive. And so I guess the one thing I wish there would have been, because especially for Burke, because he is such a piece of shit, is when Ripley goes into the hive after Newt. I wish we would have gotten a scene where she comes across Burke, like strung up on the wall. Yeah. And like begging for some kind of release or whatever. And then, I don't know, maybe she sets him on fire. Maybe she doesn't. Like setting him on fire would be like giving him the worst death possible.
Yeah.
But, like giving us that one more bit of finality and her, just her revenge on Yutani in some way.
Yeah. It felt like that was missing a little bit. We didn't get that catharsis of really seeing Burke, eat shit hard. But anyway, they're escaping through the vents. Vasquez is just blasting a bunch of xenomorphs. She's kind of proves to be like the biggest badass of the group in terms of just like she's dispatching a lot of these motherfuckers. She does like a whole like sticks her foot on like one of their head and like John Wicks him with a pistol too. But then she does get some blood, splashed on her legs, which of course, fucks her legs up. But great sequence of her just fucking up xenomorphs in the vents. Eventually, Gorman and Vasquez like kind of come to a place where they're stuck in a vent, literally between two xenomorphs coming in both directions. They're out of ammunition, but they have these grenades, and they just basically kind of make a quick little suicide pact, like, and just hold on to these grenades and fuck up a couple of the last xenomorphs in the vent. So again, people are dropping like flies at this point. Newt is, causing some more trouble. She's sliding down vents and getting lost and shit. But she has that tracker on. So now we have a little side mission where they have to go find Newt. Hicks and Ripley have to go find Newt. This is when I really noticed her shitty English accent coming and going, by the way. It's like the sequence was really bad. They're trying to like cut into where she is, with this like, I don't know, welder thing or something. They're trying to save her, but there's it's again the same thing happens again where it's like, hey, they're 20 meters away, 10 meters away, and just as they kind of get in there, one of the little Xeno boys pops up out of the water and snags her up. Oh, Ripley doesn't see her get taken, but she's gone, and Ripley obviously super upset, and she's like doing this thing where like, she wasn't dead. They're not going to kill her or whatever. Like she was worried that of course they're going to like, put a little dang xenomorph in her. So she's pretty bummed. We do get another like jump scare where another one of the xenomorphs pops into the elevator and Hicks shoots it, but then he gets acid on his chest. So now he's got, he's a little bit fucked up. Bishop shows up just in time with the ship fixed. Ripley makes him fly it, back into the compound to save Newt. So they should be off scot-free, but Ripley's like, nah, dog, we're going back to find Newt. So Ripley going in for like the final, hero's journey, gets suited up. She's got a bunch of grenades and shit. Like she takes the elevator back down. It's actually a really easy to forget scene, but it does a great job of building tension because not only is she getting like suited up for the final showdown, she keeps hearing like the automated voice alert to the entire facility. That's like, 19 minutes, 15 minutes, 4 minutes. It keeps counting down to the places is going to be nuked. And you get that ticking clock, which is obviously works great. To build suspense late in the movie here. And then it culminates with that like hero shot of her stepping out of the elevator, which you want to see in like a, action, either it's a genre film, like you want to see in that it's an action movie. You want to see the badass, action hero ready for the final showdown.
Yeah. Which they give her a couple of those kind of shots in these last, 15, 20 minutes. So, yeah.
I'll be honest with you, Ripley being a little fancy free early on when she gets down to that level, just kind of popping that flamethrower off a little too frequently, perhaps. She's a little jumpy.
Bursts.
She's a little jumpy, as to be expected. She is dropping like flares as well as like breadcrumbs, which I don't know that it really comes back that much. I guess it does. But she does find Newt. Or she finds Newt's watch first, and she's bummed. Yeah. She's like, "Oh, she's dead," but then she hears her screaming like immediately after. So it's short lived.
Yeah, I like this scene a lot. It's a great piece of showing like the way Cameron commands ebb and flow of tension, because Ripley is tracking this locator, and like as she approaches the locator, like it's beeping, and as she gets closer, it beeps faster,
right?
As the proximity to the tracker, and then when she finds it, she finds that it's no longer attached to Newt, and so it basically sounds like a flat line because she discovered the watch, but not the kid. So it sounds like a flat line. You go, oh, damn, they actually got rid of the kid. But then it cuts to Newt, and she wakes up in the nest, and she's all gooed up. And you go, oh, thank God, she's not dead.
Yeah.
But then it cuts to an egg hatching, and it's like, oh, no, she's still in trouble. So it's like, it's this constant like back and forth of like, oh, she's dead. Oh, she's not dead. Oh, no, trouble. So it's it's just a great way that like Cameron, commands that. And like he does it throughout the film, but I think this is just the quickest like 3 edits to put that together to show you.
It feels like a roller coaster in the last 15, 20 minutes of this movie, in a great way. It's not just like the build up to this big final thing. It's ups and downs and ups and downs. And they're coming back and like treats it a little bit like serial killer type movie where the killer keeps coming back to at the end a little bit, but you kind of know it's coming. But so the face hugger is like hatching. She screams. Ripley hears it, runs in, just blasts the place up and saves Newt. So we have another one of these like silent like moments where you're like, oh, that was kind of too easy. She just came in and grabbed Newt. She had to do a little blasting, but Newt is like clinging like around Ripley's neck, and she looks around and sees all of the eggs and realizes that she's right below the kind of queen xenomorph that's laying all the eggs. And then all of her like little xenoboy, drones are off in the corners, like, hey, like creeping around. And she has this like really interesting initial face off with the queen where she like shows her what she can do with the flamethrower by just like doing a little quick burst. And the queen's like, eh. And then she slowly backs out to get herself into a little bit better, like advantageous position. And they have this like silent standoff where, she could obviously do a lot of damage to her with the flamethrower, but then also she could, it almost feels like at the signal, all the xenomorphs would come kill her, but they're being held back because the queen is scared of what she's going to do to the eggs. So they back away. And just as one of the eggs hatches, Ripley just turns around and just fries all the eggs and just starts blasting the little drones off the wall and, launches a bunch of fucking grenades into the big, like weird, long, like birth canal thing that's attached to the queen. And she just goes wild on him and, unloads her entire, arsenal and then they bail out the door. Meanwhile, you just get this really quick shot of the queen, like disconnecting from the big, like birth canal as well, which is a cool effect. Like how hard is that? Jesus Christ. Like it's such a difficult thing to make look believable, but they do. This little like membrane, it's wild.
Yeah, like the whole setup of the alien queen is just like fantastic. It's one of the best kind of creature effects that like you can see because it's so practical, and it was just like this giant rigging that they built in a warehouse, and it hangs in a warehouse, and it has that initial reveal where it shows you it has like just this giant head and then like these resinous bones that stick out the side of it that support it on the wall and support its big fucking ovipositor or whatever. Not ovipositor, but it's fucking big old dump hole. It's dump tube.
It's big old dump hole. Dang, girl, you got a big old dump hole.
Yeah.
Slay Queen, you got a big old dump hole.
Damn, girl. What's that dump hole do?
What that dump hole do?
What's that egg tube about?
So we're getting to like the last little countdown here, right? So we're at 4 minutes at this point. So we're getting to dire straits here.
They're trying just to quickly. Quickly, before we move out of the hive, I did a quick Google and a look, and because it sounded too familiar as I was saying it, but when we were talking about Burke getting his just desserts, it actually was a deleted scene. The scene is Ripley discovers Burke, and he's apparently got a chest burster in him, and she just gives him a hand grenade and leaves him up on the wall.
Oh, okay.
And but the reason why it was cut was because he wouldn't have had a chest burster at that point. He was only at like face hugger level at best, because like even Newt hadn't been face hugged at that point.
Right.
So it would have been wrong for him to have a chest burster at that point, so they cut it.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that would have stuck in people's craws. That wouldn't have made much sense.
Yeah.
For the whole biology of the creature, but so like I said, they're trying to escape in the elevator. It won't work. The Queen finds them, but then they do escape on the elevator. Her flamethrower's out. Her guns are out. As they're ascending up the elevator, they're like, the 2 minute warning hits. They get to the surface and the ship isn't there. And they're like, fuck, is this Bishop, fucking them over? Like she expected that he might. The place is just like exploding and collapsing and everything around them. Fucking lightning's happening. Like it's just no good. And then the other car, this is just like the piling on, right? They're fucked. Things are about to explode. Fire, lightning, everything's scary. Little girl's going to get blown up. And then the cargo elevator comes up, and the Queen is can operate an elevator. Basically, she's in the elevator, or maybe she was in the one they called before. I don't know. And a pretty like chilling line here is when Ripley's like, says to Newt, like, she's like, close your eyes, baby. Like basically like, we're about to get eaten up. Right. We're kind of at that point where we're out of options. And just then, Bishop pops up with the ship, like triumphantly, he's here. They jump on, they try to get snagged, but they kind of, they try to fly away, but they kind of momentarily get snagged. There's like this, they get away, this big crazy, music swell as Bishop, escapes as the explosion happens. The place is nuked behind them, but they get out just in time. So part of you knows that was too easy, right? And you didn't actually see the Queen die. So, you kind of get the idea something's happening. But I feel like they put just enough time, just enough distance between there and like the next scene where you kind of think like, oh, maybe it isn't, but maybe something's going to happen with like the company, or you're not really sure. Yeah. But maybe shit is not over.
Yeah. And the other part of that is like the way they kind of give you clues leading up to that. And like Cameron shows the alien Queen ripping the egg sac off of her to show that, oh, she's escaping this situation, right?
Right.
So okay, she's on her way following Ripley. Then when Ripley calls down all the elevators, they show the one elevator coming to the bottom, and the Queen noticed the door opening.
Right.
And
just
so
a real quick little scene.
Great. She's in that elevator now. That. But then they don't show you anything about the Queen getting on the ship.
No.
So they're by showing you all the times she does escape. When they show you her not escaping, you may think, okay, she just got blown up there.
Yeah. They are giving you cause to doubt that she's still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, they're back to the main ship. They explain like Hicks is kind of fucked up, but he's still alive. So you have Bishop, Newt, and Ripley, and they're all just having like a little moment. And then all of a sudden, the Queen's tail just like bursts through the back of Bishop, out his chest, picks him up, and just fucking rips him in half. Yeah. In the most, I mean, it's even though you kind of had some suspicions maybe the queen's still around. It's some borderline like Deep Blue Sea shit. You do not see this happening to Bishop,
No.
especially the most brutal death of the movie by far, getting ripped in half. And the queen has this like long, almost like it's almost like the stinger of like a scorpion, except for it almost has like a puncturing kind of drill on the end rather than like a string. It's not a real drill, but you get the idea. It's almost what it looks like rather than a stinger. And it just blasts through him, picks him up, rips him in part, and just throws him to the side. It's fucking awesome. It's honestly one of the most memorable deaths ever in film for me. Because again, especially I remember watching it as a kid. I remember exactly where I was when I watched this movie for the first time. I was at like a neighbor kid's house. It was just like middle of the day. We were all just like latchkey kids. We were sitting there.
Yeah, sure.
He lived in like a trailer up the street, and I just remember it being so fucking hot in their trailer in the summertime. They didn't have air conditioning. We were just like sitting there watching this movie, just sweating profusely. And we saw that scene. We were like, "Oh fuck!"
On the Fox 53 afternoon movie.
Yeah. This was a Blockbuster rental. Like I remember very explicitly, like us watching it on VHS. Maybe it wasn't Blockbuster, but it was a VHS rental.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously the Queenie, she's stowed away on the vessel somehow, and now is in the main ship. So, going after Newt, she's like kind of trying to hustle underneath these grates and just like stabbing at her and grabbing at her and stuff. And just when she's cornered, Ripley opens up the door, like the bay door, and she's there with the big loader, the power loader. And this is again an iconic line. "Get away from her, you bitch." She's got the freaking power loader. Basically, it's like she has like a little mini mech suit, which is so fucking cool already. And then she's like, "Come on, bitch." She just starts immediately just whipping its ass, just punching it, fucking puts it in the fucking cranium crush, choking it. And she's like avoiding stabs the whole time too. Cause it's got like the scorpion, like kind of stinging spiky tail or whatever. And this, I did not determine till this point. This is, I would argue to say this might be the OG casket match, because he throws like he opens up the door down to the little like, pod, like isolation room where, obviously you kind of know from the first movie, they're going to get, that's the bay door that's kind of get it opened up and suck the alien out into space. But at first it just looks like you're opening it up into like a little box under the stairs kind of thing, or under the floor. I mean, so the casket match ensues, but ultimately they both end up falling in. Ripley in the suit, or the loader, and the Queen, right? Ripley's trying to climb up, but the Queen is like hanging on her foot. Finally, her shoe comes off. The Queen falls. She had already hit the like button, or I think it was Bishop who hit the button to like open up the bay door to the outside. But in maybe the coolest moment in the whole movie, Newt is getting sucked out, and Bishop's just upper torso saves her by grabbing onto like a freaking grate or something, and then grabbing onto Newt on the other side. The alien gets sucked out. Ripley closes the hatch. And the crisis averted here, except for Bishop. He got ripped in half. But Newt is also calling Ripley mommy now, which kind of bugged me at this point. I was never a big fan of that, but they do get this last heartfelt moment with the top half of Bishop. And I always we mentioned it before. I always liked how he doesn't look human on the inside, but he also doesn't look like a full on robot either.
No.
He looks like it looks like slightly organic, maybe plasticky, rubbery organs on the inside. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it's like rubber tubes and stuff, but it also looks like he has organs in there, and he has some sort of synthetic blood, but it's like we said, it looks like milk or something.
Right.
So it's very gross and gory, but not in a traditional sense.
Yeah. And I think part of that is like kind of it's a cheat to show more gore than you would usually be able to in like certain movies. So like, I mean, imagine if Bishop was ripped in half and it all came out red. That would probably turn off a lot of audiences, even though this is an R-rated movie. Yeah. And even back to the original film Alien, when Ash is like spread apart all over that room, and that room is just soaked in synthetic milk, and his fucking head is just like waxing poetic, like But the other thing is like it lends to that idea of a synthetic life form, but also you can just easily imagine all that milk is like some sort of pneumatic fluid that it's what makes him kind of stronger than humans and everything, because he can just pump this fluid as he needs. Like he has control over his vascular system where we don't. So
and then we get that great finishing line, affirmative, which honestly, I hate the way this movie ends. Like, I love the ending. I love the little final skirmish and everything. And then they're even like going back into stasis and stuff, which is, essentially how the first movie ends. All that's fine. They go into stasis. That's it. But the little affirmative, little cutesy line at the end, like that just felt like a thing that you do when you have a cutesy kid in the movie for the sake of being cutesy. And I hate it. I mean, it's not like it ruins the movie for me. It's just like shitty little note to end on for such a great movie.
Yeah. And also just because like that kid wasn't, she just wasn't like any kind of determining factor in anything really. She's just there, and she's there to service the character of Ellen, of like getting a second chance at being a mother. And obviously, like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of parallels and conflict in that with, the alien queen, because you go, oh, like, she's also a mother, and it's mom fight. It's mom fight at the end. Because then the one mom, she's mad that you killed all her babies. But then, like, she kind of technically killed your baby a little bit, because she put you on the monster got on her baby was on the Nostromo. And then you had to go into stasis, and that killed your baby. So now you get revenge and kill her babies. But now she's trying to kill your new baby, but don't let her kill her new baby. Kill her and put her in the buried alive match and send her out the fucking airlock.
Yeah.
As soon as you said it's the original casket match, I was just thinking, like, me and Dusty Rhodes got to go up on the Sulaco. We're going to have a thrown out an airlock match.
Yeah, that would be great. Having a blown out the airlock match. The person, whoever loses, their eyes explode when, in the infinite pressure of space. But yeah, that is it, boy. That is Aliens 1986. What a flick! What a movie. Again, if you haven't seen it, I don't know why you just ruined it, why you just spoiled it, but it's still absolutely worth a watch. I would imagine the vast majority of people listening to this movie have seen this movie 100 times as well. And I don't know. I don't know if there's a better. I think it's probably the best. It's the best sci-fi horror, best sci-fi period of the 80s, probably in my mind.
Yeah. It's so like impossibly good that it takes an insane asshole like James Cameron. Like, I know I defend him, but I also know he is an asshole.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's one of those things where, like, sometimes you just gotta let people be assholes and they'll get great things done.
Sometimes,
like, not every asshole is great, but some assholes are great.
Sometimes they'll figure it out. Yeah.
You just got to be pick and choose which assholes you let run buck wild. Too many times, especially as of late, do we just say, oh, he's like really driven and he's into hustle. No, he's a dummy and he's not good at what he does, and he's just a jerk off, and he just hurts people. Like, who are those two fellas, Lord and Miller, who do all the animated films and like drive their animators to wanting to jump off a building. Like, those guys aren't good because they're not producing anything great.
Yeah, once for every Cameron you have a Landis. who ends up killing,
yeah.
who ends up literally killing people on set because he's such a, psycho. He's so driven to get a shot that children die. So, maybe don't be him. Be a Cameron, not a Landis. Or don't be either, honestly. But if you are going to rein in one or the other, maybe rein in a Landis, not a Cameron.
Yeah. Take lessons from Cameron about the way he looks at the world and the way he plots things out. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of filmmakers who do not think that deeply about what they're doing. Yeah. Whereas Cameron can tell you the backstory of every character, of every spaceship, like what the races of aliens mean. Like he does a whole bunch of writing and thinking about things that do not ever make it to the screen. Mm-hmm. But because he already set up those elements, they become more full when you see them on screen.
Yeah.
Compared to other fucking filmmakers who just slap something up on the screen because it came to them, they wrote a story in 20 days and threw it up on the screen and said, "But there you go."
Yeah, he's meticulous, I would say, to amongst filmmakers. All right, guys. Like I said, Aliens, 1986. Let us know if you got some upcoming, especially with that spooky season right around the corner. Perhaps you've got some Halloween themed movies that you thought, like, hey, there's 150 new Halloween themed movies that come out every year now. Most of them is hot shit. I'll watch as many of them as I possibly can, but maybe you found a little hidden gem that you want us to check out this Halloween season. Shoot us a little note, shoot us a little DM over on the social medias. We always appreciate that. And also, if you got suggestions, next week we'll be announcing our picks for Occult Horror, which is going to be our September Showdown episode. If you got some suggestions for that, throw them our way as well. Anything else, Steve? Anything else I mentioned before we wrap up this sumbitch and minisode?
Something I was thinking about was we were, it's obviously a big aliens week this week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've been seeing like Romulus. A lot of people, because of Romulus.
Romulus.
Because a lot of the way the lore is affected by Covenant and Prometheus and now Romulus.
Yeah.
I remember reading a lot of the Aliens comics in the 90s. And I'm not saying like we have to specifically do Aliens comics, but I was just wondering if the audience would be interested at all at us diving into any of those horror comic books.
Ooh, I like that idea.
There are a lot of horror comic books, even like, just original IP horror comic books. Mm-hmm. But I was just thinking about like, oh yeah, why not just look at like maybe like 3 alien books that have, explanations, because there's alien books that get deeper into, where they come from before it was screwed up by Prometheus and Covenant.
Yeah.
They have like a home world and shit like that. And then also like
they're just like riding tandem bikes on the street. And,
and they
walking
do
in and out of
kisses.
coffee shops. They'll do little double mouth kisses.
Yeah. And then also like there's Marvel, there's Avengers vs. Aliens coming out shortly.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah. So just wondering if the audience is ever curious in us going into comic books and not always doing movies. Because there's also just like, I know I've talked about the Hellraiser comics. I love those. Mm-hmm. And there's like Silent Hill comic books. There's a whole bunch of other, media out there. So
I'd be
just
down
curious.
for that. Yeah, send us a little note. Let us know what you think. I think that'd be pretty fun. Oh
yeah!
right.
Oh my god! Ron just brought up the Evil Dead comics, which also reminded me that there are Evil Dead versus Freddy versus Jason, and then there's also there's a Jason X comic book where Jason fights himself. It is and they blow up a space cruise ship. It is fucking. I actually want to do this now. I want to do the Jason X space cruise ship explosion. It's so fucking great.
I am learning a lot about the depth of I mean I obviously I touched on quite a bit. I'm not as into comic books as I was when I was younger. I still enjoy a comic book from time to time, but most of the time it's old ones. You know what I mean? Like from the 80s and 90s and stuff. So I'm really learning a lot about the expanse of the Freddy and Jason universe in the comic space. So maybe this will be a spiral down a new horrible hobby that I absolutely don't need. All right, boys and ghouls, for the Halloween's Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And I'm Jason X when he fights regular Jason because there's two of them. And one gets rebuilt by nanobots and the other reforms by his own supernatural regeneration.
Don't spoil it.
And then they fight each other.
Stop spoiling it, Steve. Bye.
But I'm both those Jasons.
Bye. No, you're not. Bye.